I'm gonna make a bold statement here, people. A really bold one. Welcome back to the Midwest Stitches channel. My name is Danielle, and this is my channel all about knitting, crocheting, project bag making, and all crafty things. So today is episode 28. It is March 2nd, 2023, and it has been, I have my notebook, it has been, and there's my dog, right on cue, every time. It has been about 3 weeks since I recorded, and let me tell you, it's been a 3 weeks, okay? Anyone else out there feeling that in the air? I meant to record a couple of times, and I was going to, but between the weather, my face breaking out, and not in a place I could really hide it for the camera. I know, some people might not care, but I care. There's that. And then the last couple of days, there was like 2 days that I wanted to record, and each day that I had it in my brain, I was going to record, I got smacked with a headache. Thank you to the spring weather, unofficial spring. Unfortunately, that's just, how it is for me when the weather changes. And once it levels off, then I'll be good. But until then, that is the springtime weather changing struggle for me. I know I can't be the only one. So anyway, all that to say, I'm back. And I have a few things to update you on, finished objects, whips, and just kind of a couple, I don't know, just, I guess a tidbit that I wanted to talk with you guys about that I had kind of been mulling around in my head with some of my projects, and I'll get into that in the whip section. Just to give you some food for thought. So let's get started. You can find me on Instagram at midwest.stitches or on my website at midweststitches.com. So let's jump in with finished objects. I have a couple, and I'm going to start with the one that I was working on the last time. So last time I had finished this sock, and I don't have it on a blocker, but I do have the second one done. So the pair is finished. Here is the second one that I did. This is the Be Mine sock set from Granite State Yarns. It was a 50-gram sock set with a 20-gram mini, and it was perfect. I loved it. So for these socks, I obviously did a shorty version, as you can see, and I did almost identical. I did wear these, and I love them. So there's hair on them. But for this one, I did ribbing for this part, 2x2 rib around the arch. And then this one, I said I was going to do a slip stitch pattern. And right here, I started to do it. And I tried it on after I did a little bit of the slip stitching, and it was so tight on my foot. Like, way too tight. So that experiment didn't work. So if I tried that technique again, I would go up a needle size for that portion. So these were done on 2mm needles, and that's the gauge that I like for my socks. But because obviously a slip stitch pattern is tighter, I would need to go up a needle size. Or I thought of this the other day, I could just do it on the bottom part. So we'll see. But this, I had some people ask me how I liked the ribbing, because I did do it. I honestly, I don't know if it's because my ribbing is, I'm a looser knitter when it comes to ribbing, even with a smaller needle. I didn't really feel like it made a difference. Like, I mean, I could feel it on my foot, but it wasn't what I was looking for. I wanted something that really hugged the sock in, not uncomfortable in that manner, but you know what I mean. So that might work for you. I don't really think I'd do that again for that part, just because of my gauge and tension is. So, but I still love them. I love the way that they fit. These are the perfect shorties for me. The 8-round cuff. I did 8-round cuff, 5-round leg, and I love it. I seriously love it. These were so comfortable in my shoes. They did not fall down. I wore them out grocery shopping one day because it was warm, so I wore them in my sandals, and it was awesome. I love them so much more than I love my taller socks that go past the ankle. So it's all about finding what works for you, what you like. So there's those. Super happy to have those done. And my second pair of socks, I do have 2. I'm so excited about these. They're so pretty. Here they are. So these are another pair of shorties, same recipe, but no patterning or anything. There's just plain vanilla. This color is the raspberry cream. I have the tag right here. This is raspberry cream from Hypnotic Yarn or Yarnable. This was the Yarnable colorway from February of 2022. And I've been wanting to work with this forever. I showed this before, and I said I was going to work these up 2 at a time. These are just gorgeous. I just have to show it again. I love this color. I started out 2 at a time. I did the cuffs first, and then I joined them on the same needles, and then I did the leg. All 5 rounds. And, I don't like 2 at a time. So I've decided, that was another thing, over the last couple weeks, kind of figuring out things. I'm not going to force myself to do 2 at a time again, especially with socks, because for me, when I do my socks, one thing I wanted to touch on really quick is I know a lot of people, follow what the Crazy Sock Lady does with her markers, which I use those light bulb markers too, but I use them for different things. I sometimes use them for marking, but not every 10 rounds. And for me, that's because my tension, even from day to day or minute to minute, can fluctuate. And I can see it in the stitches. It can be inconsistent. So, and I've been knitting for a couple of years. I mean, I know she's been knitting for many, many, many more years. And some other people, they've been knitting so long that their tension is consistent all the time, and I'm so jealous. But for me, so my tension can be different from day to day or minute to minute. So what I do, and what I've been doing is, I normally do the same recipe for the cuff and the leg. So I only mark the leg like after the cuff, so I know when to start counting for the leg. And then when I get to the amount that I need, then I take the marker out. Just so that I know that those are the same length. And then for my foot, I always use my sock ruler, no matter what. I actually did a gift pair for someone over Christmas where the first sock, I used the sock ruler, and I had marked every 10 rounds until I got to the toe. And then for the second sock, I didn't use the sock ruler. Well, guess what? That second sock, the recipient told me that sock was actually a little bit too long. So that tells me that method doesn't work for me right now at this point in my knitting life. So I always use my sock ruler. If you find that you have to use it, it's perfectly fine not to use the markers. If you want to use the markers as maybe an experiment to like mark every 10 rounds and, measure and then mark where you measured so you can see, okay, this is how many I got for this sock. And then do the second one, and then you measure again and see, are they the same? Because maybe you're one of those lucky people that are consistent throughout. Right now, that's not me. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I had been meaning to mention that for a little while, and I just kept forgetting. But that's in case you are in that same boat as me. So there's those. Those are my 2 finished pairs of socks. And like I said before, for socks for me, these are for me, you're going to be seeing so many more shorties. I seriously am so excited to knit up more of these. Like, I can't even explain to you how excited I am because I have a bunch of 50-gram skeins. Oh, and that was the other thing. So I have the 2 different ones. These pairs each used roughly around 45, 46 grams. So as long as I have a 50-gram skein, I can do this recipe for myself, and that's all I need. I don't need heels, toes, and cuffs if I don't want to, and I love that. And I have a lot of 50-gram skeins. I have probably 10 to 15 or so. I have some individual 50-gram skeins, and then I have those Mandy's Makings ones that I got from the Advent calendar. If you remember those during Christmas. And it's a share a pair, and it's got two 50-gram skeins per set. And so with that 100 grams, because they're each different colors, I can mix them and match them and get 2 pairs of socks with each different one. So I'm really excited about those too. Those are on the list for maybe down the road. And that's another thing. Let me write that down. I want to talk about that. Okay, just had to write myself a note. Okay, so the third and fourth thing, I finished 2 more dishcloths. So I believe I finished this one. Love those colors. And then I finished this solid green one. So these are just cotton yarn that I've had in my stash for a while. These, I believe, are both Lily's Sugar and Cream. 100% cotton. And I am just working on using up my cotton yarn stash. So I have some plans for dishcloths. I'm going to do, I think, some crocheted pot holders. I have that pattern, the fold in on itself. I've had that in my mental queue for a while to do, especially for our own home. So there's that. And then I'm going to do Margaret from Heidi and Lana. She has a pattern out called the Essentials. It's a dishcloth dish towel set, and I really want to do the dish towel. I mean, I want to do the dishcloth too, but the dish towel, it's just knit back and forth and not on the bias. So, and it's got some striping at the ends if you want to do that. And it's just, we really need some new dish towels, and I don't want to buy any. They're just, for now, they're fine. They're still adequate. They're still useful. So, and I have a lot of a white cotton yarn I got years ago, a huge thing of it that I want to use to make dish towels. So, you'll probably see those coming up here, once I go through some of my cotton yarn. So yeah, I'm excited about that. If you want to, for the Essentials pattern, it is on Ravelry under her name. It's just under Margaret. So it's not under Heidi and Lana, in case you look for her patterns and you don't see any Heidi and Lana. It's under her name. Her actual name is Margaret. So there's that. Sip of water. Okay, let's talk whips. I have so much to update you on. So many things have changed. So we're going to start with my granny wrap, my Hocus Pocus granny wrap. Oh, you guys, I'm so excited. I finally, after, let's see, I restarted this back in August, I think, or July of last year. I have finally made it to the second color. So here we are. I'm on a row right now. It's getting very big, so I have to come back here for you to see it all. So I picked, this is the Winifred Sanderson color. I am now on the Mary Sanderson. So it's this nice pink orange color, and I think it's going to look nice against this. And then the last color will be more of a pink, which is Sarah Sanderson. So it's coming along nicely. This thing is going to be huge. I'm crocheting this on a 2.75 millimeter hook, or a C hook. And it's getting to the point where it takes me, before my hand starts hurting, I can only do one pass up to the point, the top point, per day. So I think this will definitely be, one of those things where... definitely be one of those things where I finish it hopefully by Halloween. I'm not trying to rush and finish this because the smaller gauge hook tends to hurt my wrist if I crochet for too long with it. So I just have to go slow. What was I going to say about this? I don't even remember. Oh, that's what I was going to say. Once I finished this green color, the Winifred Sanderson color, I counted from the beginning up to the last row how many rows it took me. It only took me 42, and I say that like it's nothing, but that's 100 grams of yarn, fingering weight yarn, and so the reason I did that is to tell me for the next color, it's going to be less than 42 because the rows are getting longer, obviously, blah, blah, blah. It takes up less yarn, less rows. So that just kind of gives me a way to gauge how long it's going to take me if I do my 1 row per day or even half a row a day. So less than 42 rows. So, I mean, if I put it down to like, 40 rows or 35 rows or something for the next color, depending on how much, yarn it takes, conceivably, I could have the next color done in a month's time if I worked on it every day. And I have not worked on this since last week or the week before. I finally got to the second color, and as you can see, I did, how many rows have I done? I've done 1, 2, 3, I've done 4 rows with the new color so far. So, there's that. Still loving it. It just, because of my previous wrist injury that I had, I just have to take it slow, and I have to, when I crochet, I really have to be mindful not to like death grip the hook, because I can do that, and I even have to do that when I write with pens or pencils, and I've been like that since I was little. I just like, hold on super tight to whatever utensil is in my hand, and it's just a habit. So just trying to be mindful of that. I don't have that problem when I'm knitting. I don't know if it's because it's more fluid for me, just the way that knitting is, but sometimes I can if the needles are bigger. I tend to grip them a little harder, but the thinner needles, like sock needles, I don't really have that problem. I don't know why. So there's that. So, oh, and I completely forgot. For the dishcloths, I knit them on, in case you're wondering, I knit them on 4.5 millimeter needles. So that's a size 7. I know a lot of patterns call for a size 8, but because I am a looser knitter, a little bit looser knitter, and I wanted a little bit of a tighter gauge, I just went down to a 4.5. And I like the result that I get for that. So, in case you're wondering. Okay, my next project I wanted to talk about is a new pair of socks I've cast on. I started these last Saturday. So I am holding these in this 4th of July bag that I had not last year, but the year before. And it's a 2-toned bag, and this is my medium size, and I love this so much. These prints were probably some of my favorites that I've worked with. I mean, how cute. Okay, so the yarn I'm using, oh, do I have the tag? I know I do. It's in here somewhere. Okay, so the yarn I'm using is from Pumpkins and Wool. It's called Dusty Blue and Mauve. And this is what it looks like. Very, like, as it says, dusty blue and mauve. It's very, very light, delicate. These are actually gift socks. And I won't say for who, because, I don't know. They may or may not watch this. But I have started gift knitting for this year. This is my first pair. So the gift knitting has begun. I'm starting early instead of waiting until the fall and then feeling rushed. My goal is to have gift knits, because I don't have that many, but to have either all of them or the majority done by the time summer starts. I know, that's a bold goal. Big statements. So, here is the socks so far. So I just today finished the heel flap, heel turn, and then picked up the gusset stitches. So I'm on the decreases. And I'm actually doing, if you can, oh, you can't see that. There you go. Fingering weight, held double. So this is a 75-25 blend. So with that, I am getting a DK weight. I have a little keychain that tells you all the yarn weights with like a, oh gosh, what do you call it? It has like a notch in it. So you can lay the yarn across it and see if you don't have a label anymore, if you're curious what your yarn weight is. So I laid these two across next to each other, and this weight of yarn, this fingering weight yarn, does give me a DK weight. And I experimented with that. I used a thicker fingering weight yarn that I have, an 80-20 and an 85-15, and those together do give me a worsted weight. So if you're new to people talking about holding fingering weight double and what gauge you get, a lot of people don't talk about, and I've complained about this before. Not complain, that's not the right word. I've said this before because maybe those people that talk about it just assume that you're not a novice to that. But the yarn original weight, or the ply of the yarn, and how thick or thin it is, will affect the weight you get held double, which seems kind of obvious, but you know, that was a whole thing I went through the Christmas before last. If you've been around for a while, you remember me talking about that. So these are the first gift pair. I talked about this at the beginning of the year. I have a big bag of yarn that I picked for my wall, and I labeled them all with who they're going to be gifts for. And I'm starting to pull from that bag to make gifts. So the next one that I'm going to knit up, which I haven't started yet, I should have these done probably by the weekend. These are DK socks. If you know, they work up super quick. So, but the next pair that I'm going to cast on, which will be appropriate for March, is this yarn I've had in my stash for a while too. It's also pumpkins and wool. It's her Lucky Charms sock set. And it's so pretty. I can't wait to see this knit up. And it did come with it's not really a white mini. It's kind of a light gray white. So these are going to be for Adrian. His first gift pair. So there's that. So let me put this back in my needle holder real quick. So I'm excited to work on gift socks, or I guess there's some other gifts I'm going to make in there. So not just socks, but I'm excited to work on the gift stuff early. I'm trying to incorporate that in with my other makes for myself, just so that I can get them done and not feel stressed at the end of the year, because, you know, trying to plan ahead. Sometimes I'm not good at that. And you know, sometimes I am. I'm very thirsty today for some reason. Okay. My next one I want to talk about is, well, two more things. I'm update you on my cowl, my wallop cowl. I don't know that I really want to call it that because I'm not following the pattern per se. I only followed it for the stitch count. So, but here it is. I've done a little bit of work on it since the last time. It is getting bigger. So there's that. And we're just moving along on this, slowly but surely. And the thing the tidbit that I alluded to earlier has to do with this and my next project, but they kind of go together for this particular topic. So the thing I wanted to talk about is changing your mind with your crafts. So as you can see, I have changed to magic loop. This was on a 16-inch circular the last time you saw it. And just recently I switched it to magic loop. The reason I did that is because it being on a 16-inch circular, I did not like working on it. I'll be honest. I would pick it up and I would do a round or two, and for me, that type of circular knitting is not my favorite, even with a bigger, you know, it's bigger than a 9-inch for a sock. It's the scooting of the stitches, and even though the needle tips were longer, it's just not comfortable for me. And while logically it makes sense to do it on a 16-inch circular, a hat, or this type of knitting, like it makes sense on paper to knit it that way, because you're like, oh, you just go round and round and round, and you don't have to pull out the needle and go back in and do all this other kind of stuff. But I love magic loop. I love it. It's my favorite way to knit socks. I've done DPNs. I don't like 9-inch circulars. I don't like flexible double points. I've tried those. I don't like 2 circulars. I just love magic loop. It's my preferred way of knitting. And I got to thinking about it. I'm like, I want the finished object. I want to be able to have this for next year, but I don't want to work on it. And for me, it wasn't the project, it was the tool I was using. So what I'm getting at here is this is your permission, your sign, your whatever you want to call it, to change your mind. Even if what you change to seems not logical or illogical, or it goes kind of against what you would think you should be doing, or the method you should be using. Even if it doesn't make like a lot of sense, you're like, it makes more sense to do it this way than this way, but it's whatever is comfortable for you. And keeping in mind that if you're not loving a project, it might not be the yarn. It might not be the project. It might be the tools. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I was thinking about that the other day when I changed the needles to this, because it was like, it doesn't, like 16-inch circulars, it makes more sense to do it that way. It should be quicker. But for me, it is not quicker. It's not more comfortable. So I just wanted to throw that out there for anybody that may be feeling that way with a project, or maybe one in the past where you just completely frogged it because you might have thought that you didn't like the project. Maybe reevaluate that sentiment, and it might be the tools you're using. So, yeah. So there's that one. Not a lot of progress, but, you know, here and there, I'm going to obviously be picking it up more now that I have changed my needles. So my last project to update you on is my Granite State Yarns Advent. And this goes along with the other one. If you're not liking what you're doing, for whatever reason, feel free to change it. Don't feel guilty, and don't feel like, if you have a social media account, even if you have a smaller following or whatever, it doesn't matter, or even in your own brain, don't feel guilty for changing your mind. You know, I know a lot of times we can, and it seems kind of silly to be like, it's just a craft. Why would you feel silly or guilty for changing your mind? We just do. I mean, no one can really explain why, it is. So that's what I'm getting at here, is just don't feel guilty. So here's the progress, and we'll talk about it here in a minute. Oh, look how wild that looks. This is the 12 days. I have 12 more left. Oh my goodness. This will be the most colorful thing in my house, besides my yarn. I don't do a lot of color. I keep it very neutral. But look how it's so wild. Oh, but I am loving it. So I frogged it, as you can see, and I started knitting it double, like the socks. So here was my last color. There's my 2 strands of yarn. And obviously it has worked up much faster than the fingering weight by itself. I don't think by the time I'm done with the other 12 colors, it will be the size that I want it to be. So I think what I'm going to do is maybe make this my Granite State Yarns scrappy blanket. I have enough of her yarn once I knit up some more socks that I can just add in the scraps and it can just be my Granite State Yarns blanket. So that's what I think I'm going to do. So for this, if you can tell, hopefully in the screen it'll show it, I have made it into a rectangle. It is a rectangular shape. I started out, because the other one I started out in the middle with a rectangle, and I didn't really care for that method, so I kind of did my own thing. So I started out with a square in the middle. So that was just a granny square until I ran out of the color. And then what I did was on this yellow color on these sides, I made them longer than the other sides. And then I did it again with this color. I extended it again at this color. I only did that because I wasn't sure if I liked the shape after the first extension that I did. So I just did it again later. The method that I use, I kind of made up myself. I watched a couple of videos on people that turn granny squares into granny rectangles, and their methods were, like, they were okay, but I didn't really like them, and they didn't really go with how I do my granny square. So I just kind of made it my own. So if you are interested in how I did that, I can certainly do like a little tutorial and put it up on YouTube so that you have it if you want to maybe do the same, because I found that doing the granny square for the middle is so much easier than the rectangle. I will say that. So there's a lot of reasons for that, but I'll just leave that there. It's just easier. It's just easier to do overall, and then making it into a rectangle, it's actually very easy the way that I did it. So let me know if you want a tutorial on that. I will be happy to film a little sample and show you how to do that. It's super easy. Easier than anything I've found online. So, and the look of it doesn't really, it looks very cohesive, like it's supposed to look like that. Okay, so that's all of my projects. So that's it for that. Okay, I have some acquisitions. I really only one. I've made some things for myself, but I will show you the one thing I got in the mail. So this was yesterday, I got my Freckled Whimsy Yarn of the Month, and here it is. This is called Mystic Forest. So this is her fingering weight Yarn of the Month club, and I only get the full skein. You can get a full skein and a mini skein, and she has some DK clubs as well. So if you're interested in that, she has monthly signups, and you can do a continuous one. You can do one at a time. Very flexible. I love it. So yes, very pretty. The other things that I made myself some new project bags because, you know, I can't help myself. So the first one I saw this fabric online and I could not resist it. I made this little guy. It says, "I run on coffee and sarcasm." So I made myself a snap bag, and it has the same as my other coffee bag that I made the inside because I had some leftovers. So there's that. And I actually I had enough to make 2. So I'm not sure. I might save this for a future giveaway unless there is interest in this bag. I could potentially do a pre-order for this. So let me know. And I did a thinner handle because I cut the straps wrong. Normally I do a 1-inch handle, but I kind of like this thinner. What size is this? I think it's like a 3/4 inch. Let's see. Maybe a 1/2 inch. Yeah, it's a 3/4 inch handle, but I like it for the small bags. So yes, super pleased with those. Can't wait to use that. And then the other one I made was a large bag with this fabric. This is called Ugly Christmas Sweater. And look how cute that is. It's an ugly I made a sweater size bag with my ugly Christmas sweater fabric. And then I used leftovers of this fabric that I had from my Christmas collection because I love it. This kind of gingham, whatever you want to call it, fabric. So there's those. And that's really it for new stuff, project updates, etc. Okay, so let's talk shop real quick. I did mention in my last episode that I was going to have a sale for this month, and this is the first time I'm getting around to even announcing it. I did pop some new things in the sale section over in my shop, so head on over there if you want to see what items are on sale. They are 50% off. It's mostly the florals I had left in my shop from last year's spring collection, so kind of a sale to usher in spring, and a few kind of other things in there. So head on over there. Those will be up for you right now. And the other thing for the shop that I wanted to talk about is this stack of fabric, if you can see that there. So I talked the last time about potentially doing a custom order section on my shop. I took pictures of all of these to put up there. I have not put them up yet. But I was mulling around in my brain whether or not I wanted to do that. So I was thinking of maybe selling these fabrics to any of my fellow sewers. If you're interested, because I'm just wanting to kind of clear the decks, if you will, of some of the things that I'm just not that interested in working with. And these are some of them. They're very pretty. So if you're interested in maybe purchasing some of these fabrics, some of them are 1 yard, some are 2 yards. Most of them are 2 yards. Maybe a little bit more. I didn't measure them yet, but if that's something that a few of you are interested in, I will be happy to post the pictures on my website and list the fabric itself for sale if you wanted to either sew a project bag for yourself or even a different pattern altogether. It doesn't have to be a project bag. I'd be happy to sell those to you at a deep discount. Because I'm feeling that urge to get rid of some things. So, and it's probably, spring's coming, and I think that's just the vibe this year. Is anybody else feeling that? Like, that just feels like the whole vibe in the crafting community, at least from what I've been hearing and watching and seeing. Anybody else? Okay, and then the last thing to kind of go with that is about my yarn stash. So I know we talked about a little bit about goals earlier in the year, back in January, but I've mulled some things over in my brain, and two things. One, I've been setting mental goals for myself each month, like the 2 pairs of shorties for February. That's what I wanted to make, and that's what I accomplished. And now my goals have moved into gift knitting. I want to be able to get 1 to 2 gift knits done a month, along with progress on my other projects. Keeping it realistic, so I'm not overwhelming myself or feeling down on myself because maybe I didn't meet those goals, because that can happen when you kind of overshoot. And I am definitely one of those people that overshoots on goals. So keeping it real. My other thing is to kind of go with that, with the yarn stash. I'm going to make a bold statement here, people. A really bold one. This is the year of stash for me. And probably the next year after that and the year after that. I know I said previously that I was going to have just a little bit of mail come in, a little bit of yarn acquisition, but currently it is only going to be this once a month. My Freckled Whimsy yarn. And that's it. I know, that sounds crazy. I thought about this a lot over February, and I've really, with the shorty sock pattern that or recipe, I don't want to call it a pattern. It's not a pattern. The recipe, it's really made me stop and look at my yarn wall. I have a cubby over there with hanked yarn that I've acquired, and it's just made me like kind of browse my collection, shop my collection, and get excited about using those yarns. I bought them because they were beautiful and I loved them and I wanted to make things with them. And so now I'm sticking to that. It's been kind of weird. It's, even though I see the pretty things online and I'm like, oh, I really want that. In my mind, it has been, since I've kind of mentally decided this about my stash, it has been so easy to resist. I don't know why it's different. Maybe it's just, I'm just ready to be at that point. And I'm not a person that likes a lot of unnecessary things and clutter. I've done a bunch of decluttering and destashing and just donating things over the years. And, you know, so I just don't like a lot of things. So, but having this craft stuff that I have between the fabric and the yarn, it does tend to make me feel a little overwhelmed. Even though I love them. I love them. So that's why I'm going to focus on using the stuff that I have. I did get rid of quite a bit of yarn. I never did talk about that because I didn't feel the need to. But I sent a huge box of yarn that I pulled from my stash and sent to Amy of Noble Character Crafts. She is also a Nebraska maker, and I love watching her channel. And I decided just to see if she wanted it or to pass along to other people because she knows other crafty people. And I did that because she is so creative. She is very, very creative with how she uses up different weights of yarn, different types of yarn. Like, she's just amazing when it comes to that stuff. Like, she's very, very creative. I'm just not that creative. And I just didn't want to work with the yarn. And I knew it was going to sit there and it was just going to take up space. So I decided to pass that along to someone who I knew would use it, or send it, or pass it along to someone that she knew would use it in a project or something. So she gladly accepted that. I was grateful that she did. And it felt like such a weight lifted off to get rid of the stuff I knew I didn't want anymore and I knew I wasn't going to use. So I didn't feel guilty about it. It was so nice to just pass it along to someone else. So I've kept some things that I have patterns in my mind of things I want to make. I'm looking at my stash. It's over here. So there might be some acquisitions when I eventually get to some of the skeins of yarn or single skeins. But I need to I need to buy multiples of them to make like garments. Because when I bought them, I didn't have garments in mind, but the yarn is still available in those colors. So anyway, long story short. So there's that. So we're making bold statements today. I am sticking to my stash, and very few and far between will you see new yarn on this channel for the foreseeable future. Hopefully you all will want to still follow along and see what I'm making with those beautiful yarns. And I guess that will just tell you when I do purchase something that it was a very well thought out purchase and I really wanted it. So the only thing I have in my brain to purchase this year will be the Freckled Whimsy Advent sock set. Advent socks, or Advent yarn for 2023. Because I'm not buying an Advent calendar. Not this year. Maybe not any other year. I don't want to say that. I don't want to say never, but at least for right now. But I will buy the Advent sock set and be happy to work that up in December. So, this has been probably a very chatty episode. So hopefully that was okay with you guys. If you stuck around until the end, thank you for that. Hopefully you took away a few nuggets of information. Yeah, I just wanted to share some of that with you guys, some thoughts that I've been having lately, and catch you guys up. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.